went to school.
She made you the author you are today. Take the lessons and bring them to the next book. Know that the half-finished book will be a crucial part of all the finished books you are going to write.
And the highest solution, that is the existence of that eternal Brahman, will be experienced if you read it properly, if you decode it, and most important.
Okay, here is the current situation going on at my desk. We have different oracle card decks. We have my laptop. I'm gonna try to read the Bhagavad Gita sometime in January, hopefully. We have Luna and some paint stuff. On New Year's Day, or sorry, New Year's Eve, me and my partner basically just like made little symbols or objects out of clay that represented, I don't know, our dreams. And this was one of mine, and I'm like in the process of painting it. I think I'm gonna do the spiral like a pink color. This is inspired by Sai Swoon. Okay, that's pretty much what we have going on. I finally got my journal back. I left my journal at my parents' place, and apparently I left it outside, so the edges are like really weathered and kind of cool. Okay, I have a purring cat in my lap, as usual. Now I'm going to paint the spiral. This like pinky kind of color. I just finished my essay that I had been working on for the past month. It's titled My Journey to Mysticism, and I mean, it's kind of just that. It's me kind of talking about this past decade from 15 to 25, and yeah, just kind of discussing, I guess, like how I feel like my spiritual evolution has been during that time, because I started getting into like spirituality and stuff when I was 15, or I was always interested in it, but kind of like over the course of my spiritual evolution, how I really found mysticism, and a huge part of it is also about Safe by Todd Haynes, which is this film that I actually was just like kind of briefly talking about in one of my videos, and I just realized I had so much to fucking say about it, so I was like, I need to write this down, and then it just kind of became a huge component of this essay. I'm definitely gonna tag it if you want to read it. I got this book from the like free libraries that they have in neighborhoods, called The Sacred Art of Dying. Yeah, I don't know, it was like, its title kind of caught my eye, and I love the way that there's like almost this like ombre sort of effect happening here. I think that's a really cool design choice. But it's basically just like comparing different like religious contexts with death, and like how different religions see death. How was it?
Honestly, I think I met God, and so it went really well.
What do you mean by that?
I just started thinking about how I've been like thinking about composting.
So I wrote down in a Google Doc different stuff about cultivating a lush inner world. Yeah, in a previous video, I was kind of talking about mapping your inner world, and I guess like the process of mapping to me is so that you can create this like texture or depth with your inner world and be able to both like understand it, but then also add a bit of depth. And I want to kind of get into that a little bit more. I feel like room imagery has been really important in my work, like both in writing and in painting, because I feel like to me a room kind of represents this like container, and it's a space, you know what I mean, that is kind of, I guess, like theatrical. You'll see that more in my painting, where it kind of almost looks a bit like a stage. But it was funny because when I was in New York in October, I saw The Roommates with Patti LuPone and Mia Farrow. And it was very much like that. It was like a stage that was like shaped like a room, a living room and a kitchen. And it was just like, yeah, a static room stage. So it's all kind of connected. But to me, when I'm kind of imagining or working with my inner world, I kind of always start with a room, either a room inside my head or like a figurative room, like a container for things that I'm thinking about, you know? So I'm going to read this little text that I'd written. It's no mistake, obviously, that my newsletter is called We Are in a Room. And to me, that sentence kind of came out of the mystery. Like I don't know, that sentence kind of just like came to me, and I was just like, what does that even mean? And I've been sitting with what that means for like a year and a half. And what I've kind of like come to is it's about this, to me, this newsletter and like the project of my sharing and my expressing myself online is I want to kind of bring people into a room and allow people to like live inside my work, you know, like give them frameworks to think with, to see the world with, that completely sort of like cloaks them in it, and allows them to see their own world and think their own thoughts inside like frameworks or rooms that I've created. I don't know if that makes sense. But that to me is like really the project of We Are in a Room. Yeah, so I'm gonna read this little thing. I'm asking you to enter this room. It is all black as we speak right now, but soon it will take shape and form. Feel its expansiveness pulling out from you. Feel the edges of it curve as if stretching over a horizon line. It will be many things, but it is nothing now, just a room. Hold it in your mind. It is essential that we start here. First here, before desire soils every corner of it, before lovers litter it with enter and exit wounds, and objects fill every corner until there's hardly a floor that can be made out. I want you to remember it as it is. If you're very quiet, you can hear the floorboards shifting. Yeah. I like that paragraph. Okay, and then I said afterwards, it was just like a bit of writing afterwards. An empty space tends towards being filled. Fill it. But the secret is this empty room is always here. It exists outside of time. Know that it's here if you need it. In every moment, there's a chance to start over. This actually really came to me when I was like meditating one day. And I often have this feeling when I'm like meditating where it feels like space is very big, and it feels like the energy of me being in like a very large, very vast, very empty room, but it's a very like visceral feeling. And I was like thinking about like what this space was, and to me it was kind of like this reminder that there's always like that there's not actually continuity, you know, like your mind, for example, like creates all these stories about your life and your world, and it creates this sense of like continuity, so you understand your life through this like continuity, this like kind of cause and effect. But the truth is that like there is always this void space in every moment, and it's this empty space where there is nothing and everything. Every moment is new, you know what I mean? Like every moment is a fresh start. And the mind is kind of the thing that like imagines this continuity that we experience. Like, yeah. And I think that was also such a good pair to think about this room, because I feel like the room that I'm talking about here, where I'm like, it's all black as we speak right now, but soon it will take shape and form. It's like that room before you define it or name it or fill it with different things, you know? The room is kind of like this void space before all of that. But it's a reminder that you can always return back to that void space, you know? You can always start over. Okay, so I have some different like notes here. My first one, these are suggestions. Okay, let me start over. Okay, so I have some, I don't know, suggestions. Maybe it's like a list for cultivating a lush inner world. So the first thing that I said was create a room in your mind, fill it up, know you can start over at any point. So literally kind of just what I said. Create a figurative room in your mind. And this could be figurative, but this could also be literal. I find something that's a practice that's been super helpful for me in like understanding like where I'm at in a certain moment is I will draw out like a room, like the frame of a room, and then I'll kind of like fill it up how I please. And it's interesting to see, I'm actually gonna show you. It's interesting to see how, I don't know, like aspects of your subconscious kind of come out in it. So here, I have this like massive sketchbook. The focused. Yeah, so definitely a practice I would recommend. Literally just draw out a room and add in whatever you think, like decorate the room however you want, and yeah, just let a bit of your subconscious come through. Okay, my next thing is cultivate and build your symbols. This, I mean, guys, it's super helpful. How I started out, honestly, cultivating my symbols is I would constantly like ask myself and others, like, what is a good omen for you? And I remember when I like kind of like realized what my first good omen was, I was in New York in Elizabeth Street Garden. And it was like August, and I was like kind of heading off to do some traveling, and I was feeling a bit overwhelmed and a bit nervous, and I was just thinking like, I need a good omen, something that I can like look at when I'm traveling and know that like, okay, everything's gonna be okay, like kind of an affirmation. And I looked up and I like saw this like beautiful wind chime, and I was like, yes, that's it, wind chimes are gonna be my good omen. And yeah, and wind chimes just kind of became that theme that carried me through my traveling. And every time I saw or heard a wind chime, I would feel like this sense of like, oh, everything's gonna be okay, you know? And what's really funny is that my apartment currently that I'm living in has a wind chime on it. Basically, it has like one of those like old school like doorbell ringers, but it's like shaped in the design of a wind chime of 3 wind chimes, which is literally like, but yeah, if you know me, that's so me. And what was funny was I didn't even realize that it had that like wind chime symbol until much later. It was when we had finally got the place and we had moved in, and I was sitting on the couch, and then I looked across and I was like, holy fucking shit, is that a wind chime? And it was just like such a beautiful, like wonderful reminder that like it just blessed the whole apartment, you know? So yeah, starting with omens can be helpful. Starting with your good omens, things that when you see or hear make you feel like, you know, like it's a sign, or you feel like everything's going to be okay. That's a great place to start. But just in general, yeah, like noticing images on your walks or in the world around you. I feel like that's something that's so helpful to kind of connecting you to your external world, is just like seeing these little things in your day-to-day life and imbuing them with meaning. And this, I feel like building your symbols just really kind of comes over time, you know? You'll see things that remind you of something, and it'll calcify, I guess, against this meaning. Even just like the spiral symbol, right? Like very popular symbols can also be just like really helpful tools. I was thinking about the yin and yang actually the other day, because I was like, I feel like the yin and yang symbol is just like so like hippie, but also like really, really like overused to the point where I feel like I've kind of just like thought it was like a bit corny. But then the other day I was like looking at the symbol, the yin and yang, and I was just like, that's beautiful. Like I was like, that's the Tao, you know, like that's so genius. Like that symbol of just like duality, but then showing the bit of the other, you know, like, okay, I'm gonna put a yin and yang symbol on screen. But yeah, it's like the black half and then the white half and then the parts of each other in each other. It's like, yeah, it's just such a good symbol, you know, and I feel like it just connects to the sense of duality, but also relation within duality and balance and all of these things. Like, it's just such a lovely symbol. So don't be afraid to also just really connect to the symbols that are tried and true. There's a reason why the yin yang symbol, why the spiral symbol is so prolific. It's these are beautiful symbols. Yeah, I mean the spiral symbol, the symbol that we're both kind of moving into the center and moving away from the center simultaneously. I have like a whole newsletter about that I'll link below if you want to read more. Okay, moving on to my next one. Generate stories, but don't get attached to those stories. Yes, stories are so stories are ancient. Let's start there. Like bread and dairy, stories are ancient. We've always been telling stories to help us both understand lessons, understand our internal worlds, understand journeys and evolution and growth and change and death and everything, you know? Stories can be incredibly helpful to understand what we're working through internally, you know? For example, this summer I was really struggling with PMDD, and I really connected to this like biblical story that was in Sheila Heti's Motherhood of Jacob wrestling the angel. So in this story, basically Jacob is kind of wrestling with this angel, except he doesn't know it's an angel initially. It just seems to be sort of this creature, even maybe a demon. But in the light of day, when dawn comes, he's like, who are you? And he realizes that it's an angel, and he realizes that he saw God face to face. And I guess what I kind of took from that was this element of the curse/blessing, you know, that things that you're wrestling with that seem like a curse can also be your angels, you know, in the light of day, and they can bless you, you know. And I think that was really helpful for me to understand and work through what I was going through with PMDD, and not making this thing that I was going through the demon, you know what I mean? Like, even though it felt like a demon in the moment, and even though it felt like I was cursed and I was wrestling with it, I knew that, you know, in the light of day, so to speak, it could be my angel. It could be the thing that could bless me, could save me, you know? And it was, you know, like, I don't really experience PMDD super badly anymore. But going through that has changed my life, like, for the better. It's completely given me the capacity to be generous and kind with myself in ways that I have never been before, you know, like reach a level of like self-compassion and acceptance and understanding that I don't know if I could have reached without PMDD. And it really did become my angel, and it was because of me kind of giving myself that story to work with, you know, and that's what stories are the best at. But of course, I said here, don't get attached to those stories. Buy into this reality, have the experience you're having, enjoy it, like go through it as if it's so real, but remember that it's not real, you know, and like have that level of detachment to it. And stories can really heal us and help us, but they can also be detrimental, you know. They can be things that we constantly tell ourselves and don't allow us to be free, you know. Yeah, like going back to this like room metaphor, it's like if a story is a room, you know, it's like that room can be both a wonderful container or it can be something that's limiting, something that's encaging and enclosing, you know. And you'll know the difference. There's a felt difference between those two things. And then you'll know when you need to let a story go. Okay, so the next one is, I love this one. Read writers that give you frameworks that you can live in, that you can think your own thoughts with. Yes. Like, if I could think about something that was the most helpful to my thinking, to my writing, and to my work, was literally just reading writers that have given me my own frameworks to see the world with, you know? Okay, yeah, so some super notable books for me. Sheila Heti, Motherhood. This changed my idea of what I thought a novel could be. And I think what I like about Sheila Heti as a writer is it just feels like you can like live in her world, and like her version of the world or how she sees the world becomes how you see the world. And that's what I really mean about the type of books that I love. It's both about like maybe like if you're reading more philosophy, maybe they're giving you like a philosophical framework that you can connect with and see through the lens of your own life. But I also like writers that just like create this space, you know what I mean, for you to live in with them, or just for you to like spend time with them, you know? And that's also awesome. Okay, so some other ones have been Eros the Bittersweet. This, bro, for all my yearners out there, you gotta get your hands on Eros the Bittersweet. Okay. Wabi Sabi, obviously, for artists, designers, poets, and philosophers. Yes, indeed. I Am Thou by Martin Buber. I mean, you can see how much I've loved this book. I have a whole podcast on this book, so maybe I'll also link that below. It's a really comprehensive podcast. Like, I went for an hour and a half just going through all these different quotes and the meaning, you know, of this book. And this book has changed my life. It's given me one of the most powerful, exciting philosophical frameworks to work with, and it shows up in all of my writing. And yeah, it was just so funny reading this. Is like reading this the entire time I was reading this, I was literally like, I cannot believe this book exists. Like, I was like, I cannot believe that me and this book are on Earth at the same fucking time. It was awesome. Okay. And also definitely the Tao. There's like so many different translations of it, but this is the one that I've been reading lately. It's pretty big. It's like a hardcover. I got it for Christmas. It's called The Eternal Tao Te Ching, the philosophical masterwork of Taoism and its relevance today. And it has like the just like the Tao and the translated version of the Tao with these like beautiful pictures, but as well, which I love in any translation book, because like how can I need to understand how you translated that, because like I need to understand. So it has these like chapter notes, which kind of goes from each section of the Tao, and the author kind of explains his translation decisions, like why he translated things differently than maybe other authors or other translators, and yeah, like different characters and different words and why he made that decision. So this is dope. Oh, also a notable mention, Lose Your Mother by Saidiya Hartman. That book also changed my brain chemistry. It was so stunning. I'm not going to get into it more than that, but yes, definitely. Okay, next one. Be generous with yourself. Period. Be generous with yourself. Be generous with yourself. Yeah, I mean that in so many different ways. I mean generous in the sense of the time that you give yourself, just giving yourself a bit of time to think and be and write a little bit. It's so important. Yeah, just dedicating time to yourself. It can even be just like a few minutes of journaling in the morning. Journaling has got me through so much. But also be generous with yourself in terms of just like how you treat yourself, you know, and what you're going through. Let yourself have it. Let yourself go through what you're going through, experience the emotions that you're going through, and be a good friend, you know, to yourself. Just like hold your own hand through it all, you know, and remind yourself constantly that you always have your own back no matter what. I think in a lot of fears of rejection, a strong component of that fear is us rejecting ourselves, you know, us abandoning ourselves. And I think it's so helpful to just remind yourself that you will always have your own back, no matter what. You will always be your number one supporter. Okay, next one. Know that you're a sovereign being, that there will be things that deter you, that get you down, and that it is your responsibility to uplift yourself and remind yourself of who you are. Period. Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot lately, just because I have kind of really decided, you know, in the past few years to really dedicate myself to my writing and my art. It's been kind of like a slow process, but right now it's something that I'm super, super committed to. And, you know, everything does kind of like revolve around my art in a lot of ways. And, you know, even the jobs that I decide to take that allow me to work somewhat part-time, to be able to like give myself time to myself, that allow me to work from home, you know, it's everything kind of is about feeding my art right now. And there's a lot of people and situations and things that will, yeah, just make you feel wrong for choosing that path, or make you feel like your art isn't worth it, or that you're not going to make it as an artist, that it's irresponsible, that it's not a real full-time career, and you know, you live in the world. Even just like in a very subtle way. Like I feel like my family is completely completely supportive and amazing to me, you know. And everyone around me is very supportive of me. But I think it's just living in this world, you know, like living in this world, watching media, you're gonna like experience these things that kind of deter you, that make you feel like you're doing the wrong thing. And it's just always so important to continue to remind yourself that not only are you a sovereign being, and you are in charge of the experience that you're having, but as well that you know your own truth, you know, and you know yourself best. And I just know that how I feel when I'm writing or making art or being in this world that I've created for myself, that's where my life force comes from. That's where my vitality lives. Like it gives me everything. It makes life more than worth living, you know? And so why would I not dedicate myself to that, you know? Yeah. And it's your responsibility also to kind of uplift yourself from periods of time when you're going through doubt, where you're going through fear or confusion. And this doesn't mean like you have to like get over your fear, get over your doubt. I don't think I will ever get rid of doubt in this lifetime, but rather it's about like supporting yourself through those experiences and holding your own hand and reminding yourself that it's going to be okay and allowing yourself to go through what you need to go through, and to ultimately uplift yourself. Okay, next one. Every mistake, every misstep, every misfortune is a wonderful, fascinating lesson and journey. Literally. Like, if I could say what the key to happiness is, not actually, I don't know the key to happiness. Maybe I do. I do want to acknowledge with this that suffering is very, very real, and I don't want it to seem like I'm like making light of anybody's experience with suffering. A song that I really love, called Sadness as a Gift, has like in the refrain, we can see the sadness as a gift and still. And that song really resonated with me because it reminded me that like the capacity to see sadness and suffering and misfortune as a gift is in some ways like holy, you know, like it's seeing the bigger picture and understanding that every experience of suffering is a gift, you know, that can transform you and deepen your experience of life. But then you have the sadness as a gift and still, you know, it's like, and still, even if we know that sadness is a gift, even if we know that suffering is a gift, and still, it's fucking devastating. Like, and still, like, there's just something about it that is so devastating, and that's what makes us a human. It's like the most human thing in the world to suffer, you know, and I guess when I say this, when I say that every mistake, every misstep, every misfortune is a wonderful, fascinating lesson and journey, it's with that kind of acknowledgement, you know, it's both. It's understanding that anything in your life can just be a part of the dance, can just be a part of the journey. It can be something that you're exploring and working through to get you closer to God or spirit or whatever. And still, it fucking hurts and it's painful and it sucks. Yeah. I'm going to go. I'm hoping to finally finish the painting that I've been working on for a few months. But yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate all of your comments, and have been reading them all. It's so incredible how kind and generous and lovely people have been. Yeah, so I'll see you later.